Hello, welcome back. Today it's all about design. We're going to design a playable option for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. Why not? Because, because I can, and because it's leading up to the release of the new book, and I would like to think that I can contribute in some way, and that's why we're doing this today. So, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to be doing a flame skull, or flaming skull. I know that sounds strange, but it'll make more sense once I get into it and I explain my purpose, my intention, and what's actually going on. Okay, I'm going to put up a poll for those of you who want to take part in that poll. My suggestion to you is grab some food, some drink, make sure you are comfortable, and we'll get started in a second. Have I missed something? I have missed out the usual lay out the groundwork for my poll. Okay, I'll do that in a sec. Okay, that's not going to work. All right, I'll fix that in a second. All right, grab your food, your drink, make sure you've got your brain working, and we'll get into this as quickly as we can. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons 5e. We're going to do a design. I wouldn't say a redesign. This is more of a design from the ground up. We're taking a monster, the Flame Skull, turning it into a playable option for players. Will it be overpowered? Absolutely. Should you use it in every single game? Absolutely not. But I'm going to go over my design goals for this, and then we're going to get started. Okay? So like everything, I consider this to be more of a template rather than necessarily a race or a species. I want to keep it simple. That might be a bit difficult because it is a flame skull. I want to make sure that all of it makes sense. It doesn't have any real biology. This is really like a magical creature or thing. So that makes it a lot more difficult to actually get it to work. But I will certainly do my best. I'm not concerned with the balance. I just want it to work mechanically the way it should. Dark vision is one of those things where I think dark vision is inappropriate for a lot of playable options, but sometimes they do work. Usually I remove dark vision or reduce it down to 30 feet. With a flame skull, I think dark vision is inappropriate since you do not have any biology anymore whatsoever, but we'll see how that works. I want to make sure that the ability score adjustments allow for choice, although I'm more and more thinking that ability score adjustments or increases should be removed from races, species, backgrounds, which is what 2024 is doing, and I was going to put it into the classes, and then I thought, no, I think it should be removed from all of that. You either use it as a variant rule or you don't, but we will work with the idea that it's still connected to race or species or templates. I do not like including long and short rest mechanics, but a long rest mechanic is easier for me to deal with than a short rest mechanic. I prefer things that just work all the time. I don't intend to include bonus action stuff or reactions to a template or race or species feature. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's just making the game far more cumbersome. I need to ensure my home group likes and agrees with these changes because they'll be doing a lot of play testing around this, and I need to make sure it makes sense to me. So that's generally my approach for what's happening today. And I've done some homework, so I've already got a whole lot of stuff ready to go to work with. But before I do that, since somehow it's really hot today, it's still winter, but suddenly we're having a hot day, so maybe that's changing. But I did forget to sort of do the final touches to my poll, so I'm doing that now. And the question I'm going to ask is, have you included a playable flaming skull in your tabletop role-playing game or D&D game? Okay, I don't expect a lot of people to have done something like this. I know I've never done it myself. I am eager to see how it would work, just for the sheer chaos. Just watching, and I will include that for those of you who are really on the fence on everything, which is fine. Because I know a lot of people just watch rather than have a vested interest in things. So we're not rebuilding or remastering the Flame Skull monster. That's not the intention today. So if you start throwing stuff at me that's about remastering the Flame Skull, forget it. I'll do that some other time. This is just to make it a playable option for a player playing a character. Okay, so that's a very different focus. Flame sight sees using reflected light and it's okay, all right, okay, cool. All right, let's get over to our screen, since I should have everything basically lined up. You may have noticed that the sound has improved. I woke up today, I turned on OBS, and OBS was reading in the yellow rather than the green, and I hadn't made any changes. So I think somewhere along the line, whatever updates, because there's been updates for Windows and for OBS and for Logitune, I think that somehow it's all sort of rectified itself. I don't know why that would be, because I've changed nothing. This happens to me so much. It's frustrating. Anyway, we need to get to work, so I'm throwing off the hat for now. And let's get on to our topic. Here we go. So this is the flame skull. I've got to deal with the fluff later. We'll deal with the other stuff now. I am really not sold on worrying about this being connected and tied in any way to, what's the word, ability score. I don't really think there's one particular ability score that we should need to worry about, because again, my intention is that the players have a character. Maybe they're playing a wizard or a warlock or a sorcerer, an arcane spellcaster, and they're killed. And they get resurrected as a flame skull, and they continue playing the game. That's really where my head was going with this. It was never my intention to make this as an option where you start off as a player at level 1 as a flame skull, and you've never actually played anything else. Do you know what I mean? It's not really where my head is at. So I'm not doing anything with this other than increase one score by 2 and a different ability score by 1, or increase 3 different ability scores by 1. I think that's going to be fine. So we're going to keep with that. The creature type is undead, because you are an undead thing, as the stat block indicates here for the monster. So yeah, I think the playable option is you are a monster, and you are undead. Next, I did a lot of homework beforehand, people, so I'm just unhighlighting as I go to a large extent. So age, flame skulls are whatever age they were before dying, and can be any age in the world, and can dying and can last forever. Forever young, or forever skeleton, something like that. Okay, the flame skull is tiny in size. I don't think that I'm going to give them an option. Your skull is small, you are a tiny thing. Okay, yes, that probably means that you can squeeze through small gaps, but I'm not going to get into that one. Speed, your base walking speed is 0, because you don't have feet. Surprisingly, for those of you who hadn't figured that out, I'm sure you did, you do have a fly speed of 40 feet. So we're going to keep that. It's the same, it's in line with the monster stat block. So I think that's good. I gave it blind sight, and honestly, it's the same thing with all the undead, because most of the undead do not have eyeballs or ears or noses or any sort of receptors that work anymore. They're operating by magic alone. Like, their existence is because they are magical. So for me, I did not see any point in going through and going and doing anything else other than, like, blind sight makes more sense. In some cases, I would say true sight, but blind sight I think is a better sort of indicator, since we're not really dealing with biology anymore. We're dealing with the lack of biology. So if you have lost all your biological eyes, ears, and nose when you died, and you became a flame skull. So let's just put here flame skull. When died and were resurrected as a flaming skull. But you still have magical senses. You can detect creatures and perceive your surroundings within 60 feet of you. Now, I think the flame skull, if you have a look at the flame skull, it has dark vision. I think that's inappropriate for a flame skull. So I have included blind sight. You can't discern color or bright light. You can only see in black and white. I'm sorry, I think that's probably where I wanted to be with that, so I'm going to leave that as that. I think Fred Huber had put in a different suggestion, and if I look at it and I think that's a good idea, then I'll certainly review. Let's keep going. If you might have noticed, I've got a bit more mucus today than normal. I'm assuming it's hay fever season coming in. Going straight from winter where I was sick into hay fever season. Life is good. Okay. Illumination. The flame skull. Now, I think we need to say the word you, because did I do anything wrong here? I'm just trying to think in terms of just trying to think in terms of how you structure some of this stuff. And yeah, there is a sort of a formatting process to this, isn't there? And I wonder if I've broken that formatting process. Let's have a look at the player's handbook and see if I can find out what I've done. I just looked at it a second ago and I'm like, oh, is there something I've missed? Age. Okay, no, I got that. Got that. Size. Yes. No, I think that's all correct. Okay, keep going. Down we go. Down, down, down. So, you shed either dim light in a 15-foot radius or bright light in a 15-foot radius, or dim light for an additional 15 feet. It can switch between the options as an action. Bollocks. Not doing that. I'm going to put here free action once per round. As a free action. Okay, so you can shed either bright light in a 15-foot radius, or dim light in a 15-foot radius, or bright light in a 15-foot radius, and dim light for an additional 15 feet. You can switch between the options as a free action once per round. Okay, I think that's better. That's more what I was after. You might be wondering, why, Fred, do you replace bonus action stuff that could be bonus actions and actions with free actions? It's simply to try to force the game into a 2-action economy. Move and action, and that is it. So I believe that 5e can be pushed into that direction. You just need to just write out all of the bonus action stuff and just stick with movement, action, and then you get a free action. And that really sort of simplifies the whole game right down. Okay, keep going. Magic resistance. So we need to include a magic resistance thing because that's what our monster stat block has said they have. So you'll notice that they include magic resistance as a flame skull. I'm going to include it here. Yes, this is very powerful. So you have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Cool. Wonderful. Next, rejuvenation. Spell casting is going to be a little bit interesting, but let's deal with rejuvenation next. There's a couple of things here. So we haven't overloaded it yet, but there are quite a few resistances and immunities to contend with as well. Okay, so so if your flame skull form is destroyed, it regains all its hit points in 1 hour unless holy water is sprinkled on its remains, or a dispel magic or remove curse spell is cast on you. Okay, so that's what we want to do. That's in line with the flame skull. Okay, is that overpowered? Of course it is. I did say it was going to be overpowered, people. Okay, absolutely overpowered. And next, so spell casting. This is where I've been trying to think about how I would like to structure it. And they have like a fire ray. And I don't know that I think I want to use the fire ray as a spell attack. It's a ranged spell attack, yes, I get it. But I think what needs to happen with this is something else. So I'm going to come back to spell casting. I'm going to rewrite this a little bit so that it's a bit more, I wouldn't say nebulous, I would say easier to transfer across onto an existing character. That's probably what I would say. So, flame skull resistance. You are resistant to damage caused by lightning, necrotic, and piercing. That's a lot. It's in line with the stat block, as we see. Is it a lot? Well, look, Barbarian can have resistance to every single damage type, so I'm not really too worried about it, frankly. So I honestly don't think you should be worried about it either. There's still plenty of other damage types that can hurt it. Next. Here we go. So this is the Flame Skull immunities. Damage immunity can be a problem if you have too many. But here we go. You are immune to cold, fire, and poison damage. Additionally, you are immune to the charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and prone condition. Prone makes sense because you're a flying thing. Poisoned because you are undead. Paralyzed, can't remember what that's all about, but I'll think about it in a second. Frightened, you're frightening enough. I don't think you can be frightened. Charmed because yeah. So I think this is a lot related to the stat block itself. You're probably wondering about the cold damage, fire damage. You understand, I know. Poison damage, yes, you understand that. I get it. You're wondering about the cold damage, and you're probably wondering about the paralysis. So let's have a look at the stat block and have a little think about this. Because obviously, damage resistance to necrotic and piercing kind of makes sense. You could say, look, if it's necrotic damage, why aren't we immune to necrotic damage? And I think that would be a legitimate sort of case to put forward. Piercing damage, like you're a skull, like made out of bone, so piercing's probably not going to be quite as useful. You're also a magical thing now. Lightning, yeah, okay. So this is what they've got here. I am inclined to think that the cold damage, being immune to cold damage, might make more sense that it's a resistance, and necrotic being an immunity would be, so switching those in my head would make more sense. I have no problems having damage immunity to poison, because based off what you are, that makes a lot of sense. Fire absolutely should be that. But the cold, why the cold, and why not switch that over to damage resistance and necrotic be the damage immunity? And I think that's where we want to go with this. And I'm going to do that probably in a second, but I want to catch up on chat and see where we're at, because we're firing away fairly quickly, getting a lot of this done fairly fast today, which is nice, isn't it? I think it's good. Ah, dear. Here we go. Flame sight. Sees using reflected light or its flaming eyes. Works like dark vision, even in bright light. No hands or arms, so can't use spells with somatic movements. No, I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think it needs somatic movements. This is one of the things that we need to include in there. I think we need to eliminate that aspect of it completely. Reform faster, as per PC, 1 hour is annoying. No, I think 1 hour is fine. I think reforming faster is, I think 1 hour is a short rest, essentially. We just haven't used the word short rest. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm not going to agree with you. Fred Huber's a patron, by the way, and always gives interesting feedback. We don't always see eye to eye. So, yeah, I'm fine with calling it flame sight, but I mean, I think just blind sight makes much more sense. Anyway, let's move on and keep working our way through this document and get a few more things done. So we're going to switch over necrotic and cut that. And we're going to put necrotic into here. Paste. And necrotic. Necrotic. And then the cold damage, we're going to take that, cut that, and transfer that over to the resistance stuff. Paste. Lightning, cold lightning, and piercing. Okay, that's fine. Additionally, you are immune to the charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and prone condition. Okay, so the paralyzed condition and the charmed condition are two things that you're kind of like, well, what's going on here? So let's have a think about this a little bit. Based off the original stat block, it says charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and prone. And I think the idea is that they don't. I think that the game designers just didn't want the Flameskull to be shut down as a monster. To be fair, the Flameskull in 5e has always been a very tough monster to deal with because it can pop out from cover, shoot a fireball at you, and then duck behind cover. It can then, the next turn it can duck out from cover, shoot a magic missile at you, or use one of its fire rays at you, and then duck back in. And then it's got shield, so it can shield itself from incoming attacks, which is also pretty powerful. It can cast things like blur and flaming sphere. So those are all like pretty powerful and useful things. So I think with regard to this, one of the things we need to consider is that depowering the Flameskull, if anything, this thing either hits at its challenge rating or it is hitting above its challenge rating, this Flameskull, just because of the way it can operate. And if you've got cover, if you don't have cover, obviously it wouldn't work that way. Yeah, I've always found the Flameskull to be pretty powerful. That means that making a playable option as a Flameskull is probably going to do something very similar. You're going to wind up with something that's kind of hard to deal with. I'm not going to change the paralysis because I'm not completely convinced it's the end of the world, but that's a lot of conditions to be immune to. And we've also got damage resistances and immunities. As I said, resistances I don't really care about. It doesn't matter. Like the barbarian's got immunity to everything under the sun, resistance to everything under the sun. It's immunities that are the biggest issue. So we just need to make sure we're picking the right ones. Okay, so I think we'll leave that section. Now, languages. If you look at the monster, it can speak common. So it's quite clear that it hasn't lost its ability to speak or communicate. That's fine. Great. Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll take this line here and you speak, read, and write all the languages you knew before transforming to a flaming skull, to a flaming skull, including common. So do I even need to worry about that? I put including common because the stat block had common, but I'm just thinking about that. Is it really that necessary? Think. Think. We'll leave it for now. Okay, we need to come back to spell casting, but I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to do that last. Next, you're basically playing something that's undead. And one of the things you might have noticed is undead things, right, usually have an undead sort of trait to them. Like, certain things can't affect them or won't affect them. Usually they don't breathe or eat or things like that. They usually have this undead nature, right? Flameskull doesn't require air, food, drink, or sleep. So I think we need to incorporate something in that vein to make this all work. And if I go down here, I'm pretty sure I have a shadow with an undead. Is it undead nature here. So I'm going to copy the undead nature from this. Copy. Pardon me. Yes, there will be penalties and problems with being a flaming skull. It can't be all roses and wonderful stuff, people. There will be some things that you won't necessarily like. They're not all positives. Sometimes there's some negatives. Just the nature of being a flaming head. Okay, so we're going to take this. We're going to undo that. Okay, come up a bit. No. Stop that. Okay. Let's do this. That. Make that bold. Undead nature. Bold. As a flaming skull. You don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. You can't be healed by magic like healing word or cure wounds. You can be forced to flee or be destroyed by turn undead special abilities. If your flaming skull character, if your flaming skull is resurrected by magic or spells, they can't return to life as a living creature. Yeah. No. So I think what we want to do is I want to change this because I did something. I forced my hand with this. This is one of those times where I feel like there's still a piece of you left. There is either, although there's magic imbued into your skull that's now flaming and flying around, I feel like there are certain magic spells that should be allowed to bring you back to life as a living creature in terms of being a flaming skull. I don't think I want it to play out like the shadow where there's really nothing left anymore. So if you're, whoopsies, flaming skull character is resurrected by magic or spells, they can return to life as a living creature, and that is what I want to do with this. So I'm doing something a little bit different with this one, just because usually I think something like reincarnate requires you have to have a piece of the individual to bring them back, right? And it's clear that your soul is still trapped in the skull, even though you might be going a bit mad. So I feel like, reincarnate with this should work. Raise dead won't, because too much of your body is gone. But true resurrection, or is it resurrection, the resurrection spell rather than the raise dead spell? Resurrection should be able to bring you back as well. So I think that's a very high level spell. Like, it's not a low level spell. Reincarnate, obviously, it's a lower level spell. You can get it a mid range in terms of character progression, so it's much more likely. But you can wind up coming back as something else, obviously. Okay, that's all good. I think I'm pretty happy with that. We need to now look at spell casting. I'm going to push this down to the other page so that I can work on it one place. I don't want to have this included. I don't want to put that there for some good reasons. But neither do I want to give them a list of predetermined spells. I want to be very careful not to do too much of that if I can help it. And so I was trying to think very carefully about what I think makes the flame skull the flaming skull. And so I've got an idea. I'm going to put it forward in a second, and I'll go through it with you. But let's have a quick look and see what chat is saying. This is the question I have for you. What spells or magic do you think a flame skull? That's right, you come back as a hamster. What spells or magic do you think a playable flaming skull should have access to? I'll put that question in. There are two spells that I think definitely should be there. The first one for me is I think they absolutely should have access to Firebolt. Rather than having the fire ray, it would be easier just to use Firebolt. It's essentially the same thing as far as I'm concerned. I think that's a no-brainer. Just go with that one. I'm not really concerned about trying to duplicate all the spell lists on here. For me, Mage Hand is nice. At will, yeah, we could include it. We could say Firebolt and Mage Hand are cantrips that you know as a Flame Skull. Cool, we can build that in. I'm not really too worried about insisting that they have Magic Missile or Shield, or even Blur. Flaming Sphere would be nice, but Fireball is one of those things that possibly should be tied and connected to playing a Flaming Skull. That's the only thing that I can think of, but it's the way I need to structure it in such a way that it will work. Do you know what I mean? Because the assumption is that it really, for all these spells to be available to you, you would need to be of a certain spell casting level. The Flame Skull is considered to be a 5th level spellcaster, but what if you wind up becoming a Flaming Skull, but you're only level 3? So we need to be able to just build in some stuff around that. And this little bit here, I'm going to take that. Did I do it right? Okay. Copy. The other thing I really want to avoid is getting into the argument about prepared spells. I get it. You started as a wizard, or probably more than likely than a sorcerer or a warlock, but preparing spells is traditional to 5e and for 4e and other versions of the game. It's Vancian magic, and it's a giant pain in the ass. It always has been. So yes. So this is it requires no. Okay, so as a Flaming Skull, sees skull, I think we don't even have to put it that. No, you can cast whatever spells you knew while alive. Including Mage Hand and Firebolt. Okay. So because your flaming, obviously, your Flame Skull, because your Flame Skull form has no hands, you don't require somatic or material components to cast any spell. Now I'm building that in. Okay. The fire ray thing can go. But we're not finished. It's all very well giving them Mage Hand and Firebolt as cantrips on top of whatever they knew before they died. That's all fine. That's all cool. Lovely. But we still need to contend with the fact that there are some spells that for the Flameskull probably should be incorporated. And so that's what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to try to build in some incorporation. If you have access to level 2, if you have access to second level spells, one of those spells includes Flaming Sphere. Hang on. Includes Flaming Sphere. Flaming Sphere. If you have access to second level spells, one of these spells includes Flaming Sphere. What's the other thing? I want to do the Fireball, another way of saying it. If you Flaming Sphere, additionally if you have access to third level spells, one of those spells and spells is Fireball. Was that all I needed to put here? I'm just trying to think about this. Because of your Flameskull form, you has no hands, you don't require somatic or material components to cast any spell. Okay, I think that's got the gist of it. Hopefully I've not missed anything. Healing word, healing words. Is it healing words or healing words? I'm kind of curious. I think it's just called healing word, isn't it? Healing word. Healing. What have we got? No match. Here. Oh, wrong place. Try again. Healing. What have we got? Healing spirits, healing words. So not healing words, it's just healing word. Okay, so it just doesn't understand that that's not how it's worded. Okay, so I think that's everything that I think I can contribute to this. Outside of, I still would have to do the fluff, which I would like to do the fluff with, but I don't want to do that just yet. I want to at least have a look and see if anybody's want to point out anything I might have missed, and I'll take that in consideration now. Spell-like abilities as per the creature. If the PC was a caster, they can cast spells they used to know as allowed by the DM. Cannot cast cold or water-based spells. I think that's probably the best feedback you've given so far today. Fred, I think that last line makes sense to me. As for spell-like abilities, as per the creature, if the PC was a caster, you don't become a Flameskull unless you were a caster. Because the Flameskull is not intended to be a class. I don't intend it. It's not like it's a species race combined with class. That's not what I'm trying to do here. You would still have to have a class selection. And you would really need to be starting out as either something like a wizard, a warlock, or a sorcerer to be going and becoming a Flameskull. That is really the narrative behind the whole thing in the first place. But your last point is a very good point. So let's take that, copy, and let's incorporate that into spell casting. So I like that idea. I think that actually makes, I was just thinking about it and like, yeah, I can see that. Paste. You cannot cast cold or water-based spells. And that entry is pretty much done. Okay, so I think that's the gist of it. I don't want to go any higher than 3rd level, so 2 and 3. I've only stipulated a couple of spells, and the rest of it's already connected and tied in, so that's done. So it's just about doing the fluffy bits now. So let's deal with the fluffy bits. Okay, so raging green flame, fire, raging green fire, fire, with an insane laugh. The floating skull is all that remains of a dead wizard, warlock, or sorcerer. So resurrected with necromantic magic. The arcane caster becomes a undead mad Flameskull. Okay, so what we want to do here is keep going. So I kind of see this as like, imagine you were killed by a dark spellcaster or a necromancer or an evil spellcaster of some kind, and they decide to transform you, what's left of you, into a Flameskull. But you break free and go on your own little quest. Strange quest that it might be. Maybe it's just gain your sanity. Maybe it's to get rid of this horrible transformation that's taken place with you. I like the idea of having players go down a particular route, but there being a way of what's the word? Rectifying the problem. You know, whether you become a zombie or a skeleton or a flame skull. I like the idea is that there is a possible option for you to get rid of that complication. Do you know what I mean? I don't see it as necessarily being a thing that you would really want to have. I see it more as a story. Oh my gosh, I was the hero, I became the monster, I need to find my way back to being the hero again. Okay, so that's really what where my head is at with all of this. Okay, flame skulls. Flame skulls. Okay. Flaming skulls. Flaming skulls have undergone a horrible transformation. And as a result are obsessed with fire, fire magic, and are mentally unstable. Okay, here we go. All right. A flame skull can shoot fire magic or spells from their eye sockets. Eye sockets. So necromancers. There we go, necromancers. Create flame skulls from the corpses of dead wizards, warlocks, sorcerers, and arcane spellcasters. The dark secret ritual used to make a flame skull is really known the dark ritual, the secret dark ritual, the secret dark ritual. Let's go here, cut that, Put that in here. Paste that. The secret dark ritual used to make a flame skull is really known. It's really known. And even harder to achieve success with. Okay, and this is that. Success with. Okay, now where do I go here? I lost a little bit of this. Oh, here we this bit here. The arcane spell caster retains their knowledge of magic in the recesses of memory. Okay. All right. I think that'll do. I think that's really what I'm going with. Okay. Do I have everything in the right place now? I've got this. Got that. There's a bit of a space here, which there shouldn't be, so I'll move that around. I probably should push this up a little bit. Okay, what am I doing? I'm supposed to be pushing it up. How do I do that, Fred? Do this. That? Yeah, okay. All right, that's better. Haha. Okay, one more. Okay, that's better. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sure it's all in line. Line, 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 line. Next page. That's fine, that's fine, that's all done, that's all done, that's all done. Okay, all right, I think I've got it nailed down. I did that in I would say that's a reasonable period of time to get it all sorted out. Faster than I thought it would be. I honestly thought the Flaming Skull would be a bit more complicated, well actually a bit easier. But actually it definitely was a little bit more complicated than I was expecting. I think it's turned out all right. Won't really know until I try it out with my players. I am a crazy person, by the way, people. I try all sorts of nutty things. I'm definitely the nuttier of the dungeon masters that exist out there. So, give Mage Hand to manipulate components. I gave them Mage Hand, but I'm not worried about the problem is you'd have to cast the spell to manipulate the components. I'm not going to do that. I'm just eliminating them having to use, somatic and material components. Let's just eliminate that completely. It's all built into their skull. It just makes no sense. I don't really want to do that. I suppose you could, but I mean, it's really, I feel like that's not up to me. That's up to the game master, dungeon master to do. Oh, what's this? I thought for a second there somebody had said they had a playable flame skull. I would be really surprised if that had happened. Hello, Pale Rider. Give the skull the ability to attach itself to dead bodies and control them. I like the idea, but I'm not going to put it into this. I think that's something that you as a dungeon master should decide to do. I think that, yeah. Yeah, I think, well, see, you don't have to find your body, because reincarnate doesn't require that you have the entire body, and resurrection doesn't require you have the entire body. You just need to have a part of it, and the skull would be enough. So, yeah, it's just raised dead would not work. You're not going to be using raised dead, which I'm fine with. I think that'll be fine. I think that's going to work all right. I honestly think it's going to work. Okay, so let's do a review. Let's see if we've got everything here that we needed. I will go through everything I worked on today. Ugh. So we made a FLAMESKULL playable option. I wouldn't say that this is a race or species. I'm going to say this is more of a template, really with the intention that the player character has already died. So raging green fire with an insane laugh. The floating skull is all that remains of a dead wizard, warlock, sorcerer. Resurrected with necromantic magic, the arcane caster becomes a undead FLAMESKULL. Flaming skulls have undergone a horrible transformation. As a result, they are obsessed with fire magic, and are mentally unstable. A FLAMESKULL can shoot fire magic or spells from their eye sockets. The arcane spellcaster retains their knowledge of magic in the dark recesses of their memory. Necromancers create FLAMESKULLs from the corpses of dead wizards, warlocks, sorcerers, and arcane spellcasters. The secret dark ritual used to make a FLAMESKULL is rarely known and even harder to achieve success with. So what are the traits? Well, ability score increase. I'm going to just go with, you determine that by increasing one score by 2 and a different score by 1, or you can increase 3 different scores by 1. Okay, you're an undead creature for creature type. Your age is whatever you were before you died, and you can last pretty much forever. So there's no limit to the lifespan. The size for you is going to be tiny. You have no walking speed, base walking speed, that's 0 because you have no feet. But you do have a fly speed of 40 feet, so I think that's going to probably make up for everything. You have blind sight, so in other words, because you have no biological eyes, ears, nose, really it's all your senses are magical, and I've gone with blind sight out to 60 feet to perceive creatures in your surroundings. You can't see in color or bright light, you can only see in black and white. Okay, changed a lot of stuff. Illumination, so you can shed either dim light at 15 feet as a radius, or bright light at 15 feet and then dim light from that at 15 feet, an additional 15 feet. To do so, this option is available as a free action once per round. It's not a bonus action, it's not an action, it's just a free action, okay? Magic resistance, you have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Rejuvenation, so if your FLAMESKULL form is destroyed, it returns to all its hit points, it recovers all its hit points an hour later, provided somebody doesn't throw holy water on you, or they use dispel magic or remove curse spells cast on the remains. Otherwise, you're coming back. If they do those other things, you won't be coming back. Spell casting. You can cast whatever spells you knew while alive, okay, including Mage Hand and Firebolt. If you have access to second level spells, one of those spells includes Flaming Sphere. Additionally, if you have access to third level spells, one of those spells is going to be Fireball. Because of your FLAMESKULL form has no hands, you don't require somatic or material components to cast any spell. Even though it might be listed as somatic material, you don't need to worry about that sort of thing. You can't cast cold or water spells as a result of this. Okay, with the FLAMESKULL resistance, you are resistant to cold, lightning, and piercing damage. Okay, the FLAMESKULL immunities, you are immune to fire, necrotic, and poison damage. Additionally, you have immunity to charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, and the prone condition. Your undead nature means that you don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. You can't be healed by magic like Healing Word or Cure Wounds. You can be forced to flee or be destroyed by turn undead special abilities. And if your FLAMESKULL character is resurrected with magic or spells, they can return to life as a living creature again. Okay? Languages. You read, write, speak all the languages you knew before you were transformed into a FLAMESKULL. And I've included common just in case maybe you were foolish enough not to have that as an option, which you probably should have if your world had common as a common language. Or maybe it's called something else. So that is the FLAMESKULL, playable FLAMESKULL. I'll put it up onto Patreon and you can muck around with it, try it out, or change it to your heart's content. I don't mind. Okay, so we got through that. Well done. That's another one down. Another one down. Another one bites the dust. Yeah. Hello, Negative Space. How you doing? I'm going to enter this poll. And I don't often get polls where people say no. I've never done this before. But today is the day. 7 votes. Have you ever included a playable Flameskull in your tabletop role-playing game? No. 85%. Just watching the 14%. We're on the edge of the homebrew creative stuff. We're on the cutting edge, people. Cutting edge. Dear. Hello, Negative Space. How you doing? This is something I have never thought of would be a playable character option. I know, but you got to understand how my brain thinks. I think in terms of when somebody's character dies, I always ask them, do you want to keep playing the character or not? I don't say, go roll up another character. Because I don't care what they frankly do. I couldn't give a shit. So if they say, yes, I want to keep playing the character, but I haven't got my body, it's all gone, then I will try to come up with, or all that's left is my skull, or the only thing that's left is my skeleton, or my heart's been ripped out, or whatever it might be. There's going to be some sort of complication, and I like the idea of including and providing options that I sign off on, okay, and that keep the narrative going. And it's a bit twisted. There's nothing more fun than having the heroes kind of venture into the darkness and then have to come out again. I think that's a nice way of approaching it. When they talk about the pillars of play in Dungeons and Dragons specifically, they say that it's combat being probably the biggest one, exploration, which I think exploration is the biggest pillar of the game, and then they say that it's social interactions or social vocabulary, that sort of thing. But I also think on top of that we have world building and character development, and this is always going to be about character development. So you're giving them a very big twist on what's going on. I imagine something more like an old side scroll game where it goes back and forth trying to bite the player. Thanks for being here, Calrel, by the way. Awesome. All right, I'm going to get going. We'll be back tomorrow doing adventure writing. I believe we're doing Rakshasa? The Rakshasa monster lair. That's right, a Rakshasa monster lair. Why not? We haven't done it yet. And I think it's a major beastie creature thingy, and it's very evil and could get up to mischief. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So Rakshasa monster lair tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to get going. Thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Huge thank you to everybody who took part in the poll today. I know that this is not a huge audience grabber. If anything, it might turn a lot of people off. But you know what I am. I always try to provide some interesting concepts coming on. You don't have to take everything on, people. You don't have to take everything on. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you to people in chat. Huge thank you to Pale Rider for being here. Negative Space, Cal Rel, and I believe Fred Huber. Fred Huber's a patron. And Fred Huber had a lot of suggestions. And would you believe it? Some of them actually stuck. I did include some of them into the thing. So, haha, it can happen. Oh, really? Fred, your character has been turned into a stone. Do you want to continue playing your character? I would do that. Pale Rider, I would do that. A living statue would be hilarious. I would probably send the rest of the party on a mission to try and reverse the petrification, the turning to stone. Because I think that would be fun. But yeah, why not? That would be entertaining. So entertaining. Anyway, I'm going to get going. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.